Hey NAI football fans, Cory Thorpe here with another edition of the NAIAFBALL podcast powered by AdCraft USA, your custom apparel, merch, and uniform experts. Our friends at AdCraft have been with us for many years now. They've run web stores for us multiple times. These guys are NAI fans and family who are experts in the apparel and merchandise world. AdCraft allows you to take the hassle out of ordering. Let their knowledgeable design and customer service staff handle everything from hosting the store online, shipping the product, and helping your customers so you can get back to the game. Find them online at adcraftusa.com. All right, guys, we head from the South the last couple of weeks. We head over to the Midwest, to the next 3 weeks, actually, as we start to wrap up our off-season coach interviews we've got in a few weeks. We'll have the folks from Morningside on, but tonight we have Coach Matt McCarty from Northwestern. Coach, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. It's just enjoying the spring right now, and really appreciate you taking time to visit with me.
Is it starting to thaw over there in Iowa a little bit?
Finally, yes, it's been a rough spring. It's been really cold and really windy, um, but we're getting there. It's a nice day today. It's starting to feel like spring and summer a little bit.
So let's take a look. I want to look at you're one of a couple of teams that are going to be able to answer this really well. I kind of want to get your thoughts now that you've actually pulled off 2 seasons in what should be like 1.5. Talk about the impact of the short seasons and the turnaround between the 2 seasons and kind of that impact on your program, your guys, your coaches, would you ever want to do that again?
You know, it's been quite the 12 months. You go back a year from now, and we're playing, in the playoffs, and you play four really intense physical football games, and then take a couple months off and start a new season and go through another long season where we were fortunate enough to get back to the semifinals, and so you're playing 14 games after you played four really big games against really good teams in the spring. And what we noticed as we got towards into the off season this year, just the physical toll, but then also the mental toll, that that's a lot of just being locked in and focused for a long time, and playing some big football games. And we really enjoyed the playoff run last spring. It was great playing the playoffs with warm weather, because playoff time up here, you don't get that. You're not fortunate enough to get the nice weather up here come December. So the playoffs in the spring, that was really nice. We really enjoyed the warm weather. Um, but yeah, it did take a toll. We noticed it as we got into this spring. Just you didn't have time. If there was any injuries after the playoff run in the spring, you really didn't have time to take care of those before you started in the fall. And so, this spring we missed some key players that sat out of spring football just because they were having surgeries, getting things taken care of from the last year of football that we played.
Was it nice to have a normal spring? Did y'all kind of get back to normal, or did you kind of add some things, change some things, take the opportunity to that some weird springs gave you?
We learned some things from last spring for sure, on just how you set up things for the spring and what was the best way to do it, and that was a benefit from last spring. It was nice to get back to a normal spring. I think it was really nice and beneficial for our young guys. It gave us an opportunity for our young guys to compete, our young guys to get a lot of reps, because last year at this time we were preparing for some really big football games, and so all of your focus last year was on getting ready to play playoff football games. And so your young guys didn't get as many reps or meaningful reps that they would normally get in the spring. And so this spring, we really focused a lot on just development of our young guys, and getting those guys ready to play.
So last year, looking back, you start off with a giant string of wins before taking a very close loss to Morningside down there near the end of the year. Talk about the necessity of, uh, to borrow a phrase, clearing the mechanism, turning back around, not being able to lick your wounds, and having to, after a game against Briarcliff, get into playoff mode.
Yeah, the game against Morningside, playing them late in the year, we used that game as a way to really evaluate ourselves and see where we were at that point in the season. You want to come out of those games healthy. That's really big, especially as you go into the postseason. You're going to play some really good football teams, and really the healthiest teams have an advantage at that time of the year. And we were fortunate enough to go into the playoffs pretty healthy this past fall. So that was a game we used that game as an opportunity to learn, make adjustments, things we needed to do to get better as we got into the postseason. And our guys knew once you get in the playoffs, there's 16 teams competing. Anyone's got an opportunity to win a championship, and you really just have to focus and play your best football. And I thought our guys did that. We were able to make a pretty good run again last year, and unfortunately, just came up short in the semifinals.
Now, this year, you kind of, well, you start off where you ended off. Uh, you play Morningside fresh out of the gate. I know that's a great way to start for your players. They're locked in and focused. But man, do you really want to play Morningside first thing?
It's they'll be the third time we've played in our last 6 games, and so there's definitely no secrets. It's a fun game. It really is. It's a great atmosphere to play in. Ton of respect for Coach Ryan, for their coaching staff, their players. We know our guys are going to be ready to play, and our guys are going to play their best. We know they're going to bring their best, and it's a great atmosphere. If you've been to a Northwestern Morningside game, it's awesome. And so to get them out of the gate, yeah, every time we play them, it's fun. It's first game of the year, last game of the year, semifinals, whatever it is, um, and I know our guys. Yeah, we'll be ready to play. We've got to have a great summer. We've got to have a really focused and great fall camp because we've got to go toe to toe with them in the first week.
Just want to take a look at your offense real quick, and I am going to quote Coach Steve Ryan to start off after the game against y'all last season. Quote, "I am truly excited to know that he," referring to Koima, "is officially over. One of the greatest players I've ever seen in the NAIA." That's definitely high praise. Um,
It is.
it's a great quote. I knew I had to look that back up. But other than Koima, y'all pretty much have everything coming back this year, whether it be Connor McQuillan or Mosier and Story out wide, and a couple of all-conference offensive linemen and Jack Johnson and Greg Will. And you're also returning Blake Fryer, who now has a lot of experience starting quarterback in the GPAC, as well as a couple great pieces in Logan Meyer and Blake Anderson there. Talk to me about your offense and getting better and more explosive even without Koima.
Yeah, I think the offense as a unit, we're really excited about what we have coming back. We really have, some outstanding playmakers on the outside, great running backs coming back. And we return really 5 players up front who've started some football games for us. And if you go back to last spring, I think we returned eight players who started in the national championship game last spring for us. And then, made a run to the semifinals this year. Blake Fryer getting 8 games under his belt as a starting quarterback last fall, that's huge going into this season. The confidence that our players and our staff have in Blake is really big, and we've seen the work that he's put in and the competitor that he is. We know that Blake can do great things as our quarterback, and because we've seen it, and that's huge. I think moving forward for us, but just the experience we have. These guys have played in big games. They understand what it takes. The loss in the semifinals stings a little bit, and they saw, just the little things that really hindered us in that game. And yeah, they're ready to get back out there and keep competing.
Defensively, you've also got a ton coming back, whether it be Jensen Ranking up front, Parker Fryer anchoring that linebacking core, or Noah Vantoff, Cole Telford, and Jaden Snyder in the back end. You're a defensive guy. Talk to me about your defense.
It all starts up front defensively. We feel like our defensive line is just an outstanding group. We feel like we have great depth there. We can go 7, 8, 9 guys deep up front, and I think that's huge for us as we get into next fall. I think Jessen can be just a dominant force for us on the defensive line. And then at linebacker, Parker Fryer, I think Parker's one of the best players that I've coached. He's a difference maker all over the place on the football field. And so we're just really excited to have him back. But Tanner Olson is another linebacker that's back for us. That will be a fifth-year senior. And Tanner's just an outstanding player. He's a great leader, but he's one of those guys that does all those little things that make the group special. And somebody that you can count on to do what he needs to do every play. And that's huge. And then on the back end, Jaden Snyder, is just a great ball hawk back there. Ton of interceptions last year. Having his experience back is huge. And then Noah Van Toff is it's kind of the eraser for us back there. He makes a ton of tackles. We get him really involved in the run game. He's an All-American the last 2 seasons for us. And he's kind of our quarterback of the defense. And so having all of those guys back, and I think it's, 8 starters or 9 starters back on defense as well, that experience is huge. And those guys played really well in the playoffs for us last year. You look at each game in the playoffs, our defense played lights out, and those guys have, really excelled this spring, and we're excited to see where we go in the fall.
So one thing I was looking as I was reviewing your history, bring up probably what's, the year that you would rather me not, and that would be your first year as a head coach where you have one of the few sub-500 seasons in Northwestern's recent history. You're kind of getting further and further away from that, and players that remember what it's like to not be a good team. Talk to me about, as you're recruiting these players in, guarding against and fighting against the current of complacency as Northwestern has established itself as one of the programs that is going to make the playoffs year after year.
Yeah, that first season was really big for us, and it was key for us to battle through some things and lay a really good foundation. And we had an awesome group of seniors that year. We went 3-7, and like you mentioned, that was one of only 3 losing seasons that Northwestern's had in the last 50 years. And so that was tough. It's not the ideal way to start. That's not how you draw it up. But our guys really built a good foundation. And in that group that we had that year, laid the foundation for the success that we've had. We've been in the playoffs every year since. And it's the same things that we were doing that year, really of what we've built our culture on these last 5 years since then. And in recruiting, that's the biggest piece. We're looking for guys that want to be a part of something, bigger than themselves, and that want to be a part of the culture that we have, and that love to compete, love to work hard, and love to be great teammates. And those things are huge. And, we talk about a standard of how we do things. We don't talk a lot about winning a championship or making the playoffs. We talk about, being our best every day and pursuing excellence in all that we do. And if we do those things, the wins on the field take care of themselves, and our guys have really embraced that.
Coach, you knew that in our 5th interview here on the NAIAFBALL podcast that I was going to have to try to find something new to ask, right?
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right.
One thing I also noticed as I was looking through your coaching staff was, I would say, the majority of your coaching staff, maybe not the overwhelming majority, but about half of your coaching staff is what I'll call co-vocational. Talk to me about those guys being able to balance their work life with their coaching life and why you have so many co-vocational coaches.
Yeah, those guys are awesome. They invest so much in our program and in our players. And it's just the way Northwestern has really done things for a long time. So on our staff, myself and our two coordinators, our offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator, are our only full-time coaches. And then we have a couple of grad assistants. And then the rest of our coaches are, like you mentioned, co-vocational. They're teachers, they're bankers. They have different jobs outside of Northwestern, and they do an outstanding job for our program. They have really bought into what makes this program special. They care a ton about our players, and during the season, they invest a ton of time. They're preparing for practices. They're at practices. You look at games and road trips and all that goes into playing a full season and postseason games as well. And then in the off season, they're helping us recruit. Yet they're contacting kids and and then going through spring football practices. It's a lot of time. I'm super thankful for the work that those guys do, and they're a big reason about, or they're a big piece of what makes our program special. I do have to give a shout out to one coach in particular, Coach Zutenhorst. Um, I think he's on year 27 next year. Coach Zoot was coaching when I played. He's awesome. He's everybody's favorite. The guys love him. He's a really what makes Northwestern special. He played here in the 70s. Coach Zoot is awesome. I love that guy.
Yeah, I was looking at him and I went, that man right there is an institution. Like, you might not see many like football statues around Northwestern, but I bet when he retires, they'll think about putting one up of him.
They definitely should. The guy wears shorts all the time. You'll never see that guy wearing pants. It's a statue of him with shorts on would be very fitting.
Oh gosh, I could not do that in an Iowa winter. This Florida boy ain't going to be able to do that. So one thing that Northwestern does have is a lot of history, and you talked about it. Only 3 losing seasons in the past 50 years, and that's going to give you a deep alumni base of folks who love Northwestern football. 1 and 2 are very accustomed to a tradition of winning football. So, one of the things I've been asking everybody, kind of as of our last question, is how does Northwestern connect with its athletic alumni, its non-athletic alumni, its fan base to create that ongoing support on both game day and off the field with the monetary needs that you have to make your program stand out?
Yeah, we're very blessed and very fortunate to have an outstanding alumni base and that are very passionate about Red Raider football, but also Red Raider athletics. Across the athletic department, we're pretty fortunate. We're pretty successful across the board, and so people are really passionate about Northwestern. And in terms of football, there's people who played at Northwestern in the 70s who won a championship, played in the 80s and won a championship, or playoff teams in the 90s, 2000s, and so there's different generations that are all very passionate about Northwestern football. During the season, I send out a weekly email to our alumni, just kind of some insight, what's going on within the program to keep them connected. And that's really fun to just stay connected with alumni. And then we have a parents group as well that will email information on what's going on with games. And that piece is big in helping them know that they're always a part of our program. A couple of springs ago, we've done a few things in the spring where we call it Powered, and we have alumni come back and meet with our players, whether it's in their major or their academic area of interest, or we had a panel kind of talk to our guys about just career things as they graduate and move forward, and just connect with our current players. But it's so important that once you're a Raider, you're always a Raider, and just keeping those former players connected with what we're doing, and also so that they feel like they're a part of what we're doing, because we talk a lot with our players about legacy and just leaving the jersey in a better place, and we want to do everything we can to make our former players really proud to be a Raider.
That is definitely, when you've got a program with great history like that, knowing that the name on the front means something and it's way bigger than yourself is such a cool feeling. Well, Coach, I'm looking forward to some GPAC football. I know you are too. It's, looking at it, what is it, 4 out of the last 5? No, the last 4 championship games have had a GPAC representative in there. Just 3 more years, and you let the mid states know that they can no longer actually say that, and have it be a real sticking point against everyone else. So looking forward to it. It's going to be another good year. Can't wait to see what it has in store.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm really excited for the fall. It's going to be an outstanding season. Our conference will be strong again, and you need to find your way up to Sioux City in September. It'll still be warm in September, so you could handle that.
I think I might be able to handle that. We will see, Coach. So I appreciate you. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the NAIAFBALL podcast presented by AdCraft USA. Be sure to contact them for all your custom apparel, merch, and uniform needs. Thanks also to Mommy Bay Turf and Turf Nation, as well as Leading Edge Fundraising for their support of the podcast. If you enjoy the show, subscribe to the podcast as well as to our YouTube channel. Leave us a review if you're listening on Apple Podcasts. As always, if you'd like to support what we do, head over to patreon.com/NAIAFBALL and become a patron. We can't do what we do without our sponsors and listeners like you.